It started as just another calm evening on Instagram. Live Kirk Frost, sitting back in his home studio, answering a few fan questions, sipping something cold, and playing old-school tracks in the background. Rashida was supposed to join him later, that's what he told the fans. But what no one expected was the absolute chaos that would unfold in front of thousands of stunned viewers who had tuned in for a chill night with Love and Hip Hop Atlanta's most unpredictable couple. And what they got instead? A full-blown, no-holds-barred, verbal takedown, live, raw, and dripping with years of unresolved tension. Within seconds, the chat lit up like wildfire. Is this real? Oh my god, Rashida knew. Kirk Wilden. Fans watched, frozen, as Kirk's tone shifted. His relaxed demeanor vanished. His voice cracked with something between anger and heartbreak. When Rashida finally appeared on screen, her face said it all. She knew this wasn't going to be just another live. What followed was a stream of accusations, old wounds ripped wide open, and a public confrontation that felt like the climax of a season finale. But it was real time. Emotions ran high. Voices were raised. Secrets were hinted at. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, Kirk said that one line that left Rashida speechless and the entire internet gasping. So what exactly pushed Kirk Frost to explode in front of the world? What truth came out that shattered the facade of calm? And where do they go from here? Buckle up, because this isn't just a love and hip-hop moment, this is a relationship unraveling. Live and Unfiltered, in front of millions. It all began with what fans thought would be another one of Kirk Frost's low-key live sessions, chilling in his familiar home studio setup, lights dimmed just right, his vintage turntable spinning a mellow track, and his voice calm as he greeted fans popping into the stream. The comments flooded in with heart emojis, fire symbols, and curious viewers asking where Rashida was. Kirk, with a slight smirk, said she'd be joining him in a bit. But even then, there was a tension behind his eyes that longtime viewers could sense. Something was off. The relaxed vibing with the fans' energy wasn't fully there. His answers were clipped, his laughs hollow. Something was clearly bubbling beneath the surface. About 10 minutes into the live, Rashida appeared in the background, off camera, talking on the phone. Her tone sounded casual, but Kirk's eyes tracked her like a hawk. As she wrapped up and walked into frame, greeting the fans with her signature glow and a wave, Kirk's entire energy shifted. He sat forward, looked directly into the camera, then turned slightly toward her, and with a sharp edge in his voice asked, "So you just not gonna say anything about what you did yesterday?" That sentence froze the entire chat. Fans began spamming what happened. And Kirk, wid. Rashida blinked, caught off guard, her smile dropping instantly. "What are you talking about?" she asked, clearly not expecting anything confrontational. And just like that, the live turned into a ticking time bomb. Kirk didn't yell, not at first. His voice stayed calm but tight, almost trembling. "You went to that dinner with Toya and them, right? Funny, 'cause Mondo told me he saw you talking to someone you said you'd cut off, and you just wasn't gone. Tell me, huh?" Rashida's eyes widened, and for a second, she looked like a deer caught in headlights. "You're really doing this on live?" she asked, her voice rising slightly. "You really want to do this right now?" Kirk leaned back, his hands in the air like he was washing them clean. "I didn't want to do this here, but you left me no choice. Every time I try to talk to you behind closed doors, you gaslight me, tell me I'm paranoid. So fine, let's be real with the people you love to show off for." Rashida stepped off screen for a moment, as if contemplating shutting the whole thing down. But when she returned, she wasn't quiet. She came back with fire. "First of all," she said, her voice now sharp, "you don't get to control how I move just because you have trust issues. I told you I bumped into him. I didn't plan it, and it was in a group setting. You want to make a whole spectacle out of that? Really, Kirk?" He didn't back down. "You lied. You said you cut him off. You said you wouldn't even speak to him again, Rashida. I told you how that man disrespected me, how he spread lies about our marriage, and now you out here acting like it was no big deal." The chat was now going crazy, fans dropping shocked emojis, long strings of "oh my god," and even begging someone to screen record before it got deleted. But the real drama was just beginning. As Kirk grew more emotional, his voice began to crack. "I defended you when people dragged your name. I stood 10 toes down through all your business struggles, through the press, through every LHH scandal, and all I asked was for you to respect me enough to not be around certain people. And now you back in rooms with them like it don't matter. Like I'm just supposed to eat that. Rashida's expression softened for a brief moment, almost like guilt flickered across her face, but it disappeared quickly. You don't get to use your loyalty as a weapon, she replied, still visibly upset. Yes, you stood by me. And I stood by you when you had a whole child outside this marriage. So let's not pretend like you've been some saint and I'm just betraying you. That line was a dagger. The audience exploded in disbelief, fans bringing up Jasmine, the baby scandal, all the history that Rashida had been forced to forgive over the years. But Kirk wasn't backing down. Don't twist this, he said bitterly. You forgave me because you wanted to move forward. Don't bring up what I did to excuse what you're doing now. If you still holding that over my head, then maybe, we ain't really healed like you pretend we have. Rashida let out a cold laugh. Healed? You want healing, but act like a prison warden. You don't want a wife, Kirk, you want a puppet. You get mad every time I have a life outside of your control. That's not healing, that's manipulation. For a moment, both of them just stared at each other. The silence was deafening, even with the chat going wild in the background. You could cut the tension with a knife. And then Kirk did something no one saw coming. He reached over and ended the live. Gone, just like that. The stream ended abruptly, leaving viewers in pure shock, scrambling to find reposts, screen recordings, and fresh updates. But the damage was already done. In just under 20 minutes, Kirk and Rashida had aired a decade's worth of pain, mistrust, betrayal, and resentment, and the whole world had watched it unfold in real time. But this wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. Because just 20 minutes after that explosive live ended, Kirk posted a cryptic story, a black screen with one word, enough. And that one post sent the fanbase spiraling into speculation mode. What did it mean? Was this the beginning of a separation? Were they finally done for good after years of pushing through every storm? As blogs picked up the story and viewers started dissecting every second of the live footage, one thing became clear. This wasn't just a petty fight. This was a rupture. A moment that had been brewing in the shadows for months, maybe even years, and had finally erupted in the most public way possible. But behind the drama, there was real pain, real confusion, real stakes. And Rashida wasn't going to stay silent for long. Less than an hour later, she went live herself, this time alone, and what she said next only added more fuel to the fire. Rashida's solo live began with an eerie stillness, no music, no makeup glam, no background laughter or aesthetic setup. Just her, sitting in what looked like her walk-in closet, face bare, eyes puffy, voice low but steady. The live counter shot up fast, thousands tuning in instantly, hoping to hear her side of the story after Kirk's explosive shutdown. For a few seconds, she said nothing. Just stared at the screen, breathing, clearly holding back something deeper than anger. And then, finally, she spoke. I wasn't going to say anything. I really wasn't, but when someone you've stood beside, fought for, built with, suddenly flips on you, like that publicly, you don't have the luxury of silence anymore. The comments section flooded. We got you, sis, tell your truth, and Kirk did you dirty FR. But Rashida wasn't here for pity. Her voice steadied as she continued. Let me make one thing clear. I never cheated on my husband. I never crossed any line that we didn't already talk about. Yes, I saw Marcus at that dinner. No, I didn't plan it. Yes, I stayed polite. I didn't hug him. Didn't go out my way to get his attention. But Kirk took that moment and twisted it into a betrayal, because deep down he never fully healed from what he did to me. She paused, holding back tears. You can't control someone into trusting you. You can't guilt them every time they breathe in a way you don't approve of. That's not love. That's fear dressed up as protection. And just like that, Rashida laid bare the emotional prison she felt she'd been in. For fans who had always seen them as the power couple who overcame infidelity and public humiliation, this raw honesty struck like lightning. Every time I tried to grow, he made it about his fear. Every time I stepped into new friendships, business ventures, opportunities, he saw it as a threat. Not because I gave him a reason, but because he hadn't forgiven himself. And I stayed. I stayed because I loved him. I stayed because of our kids. Because of the years, but staying doesn't mean suffocating. While the internet buzzed with speculation, Kirk remained silent. No follow-up post, no live, no response. Just that one word, enough. And that silence, in a world that runs on reactions, was deafening. It gave Rashida the entire stage, and She used it not just to clear her name, but to open up about everything fans never saw. You think I didn't cry in private when y'all were calling me weak for taking him back? You think I didn't feel like less of a woman? But what do you do when your heart wants to believe in redemption? When you pray over someone more than you pray for yourself. That line hit home for thousands watching. Comments started flooding with stories from women who had stayed in toxic relationships, hoping love would heal what time couldn't. But just when fans thought Rashida had said her piece, she dropped a bomb no one expected. He's been texting my cousin for weeks. The chat froze. Not in a flirty way, she clarified quickly, but in a confiding way. Like I don't exist. Like our marriage isn't his safe space anymore. Telling her things he doesn't tell me. Things about his stress, his fears, about me. And she kept it from me too. And that's what hurts the most. It was betrayal layered within betrayal. Kirk emotionally confiding in someone Rashida trusted like blood, behind her back. And while she clarified that there was no evidence of cheating or flirtation, the emotional weight of that connection felt like a deeper cut. He made me the villain tonight, she whispered. On purpose. To distract from the cracks he's been creating. So now I'm here, picking up the pieces of something I didn't break. Trying to explain myself for something I didn't cause. The fans were torn, some heartbroken, others furious. And all completely absorbed in the unraveling of one of love and hip-hop's most iconic relationships. Within the hour, screen recordings of both lives had gone viral. Blogs were already posting, timelines, TikTokers dissected facial expressions. And Twitter was ablaze with hashtags like #Justice for Rasheeda and #KirkExposed. But amidst the chaos, something unexpected happened. Deb Waka Flocka Flame's mother, and a longtime LHHATL figure, went live herself. Sitting in her kitchen, visibly irritated, Deb wasted no time. I don't care who gets mad, she said. Kirk been holding on to control since season 1. Ain't nothing new, but Rashida, that girl done sacrificed too much. If y'all think this is the first time he's pulled some emotional, manipulative move like this, you don't know the half. Fans were stunned. Deb rarely spoke publicly about their drama. Her jumping in only confirmed what many suspected. This wasn't just a one-night breakdown. This had been building for years. In her live, Deb revealed things viewers never saw, like how Kirk would isolate Rashida during filming, or how he'd get uncomfortable when she talked about expanding her solo brand. You think them arguments were fake? Nah, half of them was cut down in editing. You should have seen what they left out. Suddenly, fans who had once rolled their eyes at the couple's constant drama began to see the pattern. Meanwhile, Rashida had gone quiet again. Her live ended after a tearful goodbye, and her page remained still. But by then, the story had already exploded. Media outlets picked it up, influencers gave their hot takes, and even castmates began weighing in. Spice posted a shady tweet. Some people be loud wrong and loud proud. Bambi commented on a fan's repost, who chilly, prayers. But what took the internet by storm next was a leaked voice memo, allegedly from Rashida to a close friend, where she confessed she'd been contemplating separation for over a year. In the message, her voice trembled as she said, "Sometimes I think I love the man I remember more than the man in front of me." That line spread like wildfire. Fans reposted it, quoted it, turned it into captions. Because it resonated. Because it felt real. And with that, the narrative began to shift. Kirk Frost wasn't just the angry husband on Live. Anymore, he was the man who might have emotionally worn down a woman who had already forgiven him more than once. But the storm was far from over. The next morning, Kirk finally broke his silence, and what he said next would spark the next wave of madness. Kirk's silence broke just before dawn. At exactly 5:46 a.m., his Instagram page updated with a grainy, dimly lit video of him sitting alone in what looked like his backyard patio. You could hear the birds starting to chirp in the background and a faint hum of traffic in the distance. He looked exhausted, eyes red, hoodie up, voice low. I know y'all been waiting for me to respond. I see the blogs. I see the I see everybody choosing sides like this, some kinda game show. But this is my real life. My real wife. My real pain. He paused, wiping his face as if trying to hold himself together. Last night wasn't how I wanted things to go. I didn't plan to air anything out online. But I reached my limit. You ever been so full of something you just snap? The video went viral in minutes. Thousands of comments poured in, some defending him, others calling him out for emotional manipulation. You don't get to play the victim after that mess, one user wrote. But Kirk wasn't done. In the next few minutes of the video, he did something no one expected. He admitted he'd been emotionally distant for months. Rashida ain't wrong, he said. I've been keeping stuff in and talking to her cousin. Yeah, I did, because I felt like she wouldn't hear me anymore. And maybe that was wrong. Maybe I should have fought harder to speak to her. Not through someone else. But y'all acting like I'm the villain when I've been breaking too. He went on to share that he'd been quietly dealing with depression. Not to make excuses, he said, but there's a lot y'all don't see. People think reality TV shows you everything, but they don't. Y'all see the fights, the cheating, the glitz, but not the nights we ain't speak. Not the looks we gave each other that said, are we even us anymore? For a moment, fans paused. Even critics admitted this was the first time Kirk had ever publicly acknowledged his emotional struggles, but the damage was done. And this confession didn't undo the mess that had unfolded live in front of the world. Meanwhile, Rashida remained silent but not inactive. Sources close to her began leaking details to the blogs. One, allegedly, from a former assistant, claimed Rashida had packed an overnight bag and left the house right after her solo live ended. She was done, the source said. Not mad. Rin said she needed space. Told the kids she'd be back but needed to clear her head. TMZ picked it up, adding that Rashida was reportedly staying at a private rental owned by a family friend, while still co-parenting from a distance. The blogs exploded again, this time with headlines like, "Is this the end of Rashida and Kirk?" and "Breakup or Breakthrough?" Fans, emotionally invested as ever, started creating montages, old clips of the couple laughing on LHHATL, smiling at fashion shows, dancing at birthday parties, juxtaposed with the chaos of their recent lives. One particular video with the caption "From Soulmates to Strangers" went viral, pulling in over 3 million views on TikTok. People weren't just watching, they were feeling. And for some, reliving their own heartbreak through the lens of Rashida's unraveling marriage. But then came the next twist. Jasmine Washington, the woman at the center of Kirk's infamous cheating scandal years ago, posted a cryptic tweet, "Karma don't miss, she just waits." That one sentence set the internet on fire. Fans flooded her comments, some accusing her of stirring the pot, others claiming she had every right to speak. Was she hinting that Kirk was getting a taste of the same betrayal he once served? Or was she just reveling in the drama? Either way, her post reignited the entire narrative around Kirk's past infidelities, making it even harder for him to garner sympathy. To add fuel to the fire, another blog dropped what it called exclusive messages between Kirk and Rashida's cousin, screenshots, allegedly showing Kirk venting about Rashida, saying things like, "She don't see me anymore, and I feel like I'm just here to be her storyline." While the authenticity of the messages couldn't be confirmed, the timing was damning. Fans began turning even harder against him, accusing him of emotionally cheating, seeking validation outside his marriage, and setting Rashida up for public humiliation. But Kirk wasn't backing down completely. By the end of the day, he posted a follow-up video, short, sharp, and clearly irritated. "Y'all really act like I'm the devil," he said. "Y'all forget this woman forgave me on national TV. She chose to stay. And now when I speak up, when I'm not the perfect packaged husband y'all want, I'm suddenly trash. Nah, that ain't fair. I'm human. I make mistakes. But I ain't never stop loving that woman." He ended the clip with a defiant look, saying, "Believe what you want, but no, this what we had wasn't fake. It just stopped fitting." And then, just when the dust seemed to be settling, yet another bombshell dropped, this time from someone fans didn't expect. Rashida's mother, Ms. Shirlene, in a live of her own, she didn't mince words. "I told Rashida years ago, this man ain't gon' change until he lose everything. And now look. He's so busy trying to control her. He forgot how to love her." Fans cheered, quoting Shirlene's iconic clapbacks from previous seasons. "Let him go, baby," she said. "Let him see what silence feel like. 'Cause he'd been loud in the wrong ways for too long." That live hit hard. Fans who had once begged Rashida to leave Kirk were now organizing virtual support circles, creating hashtags like #LetRasHeeda heal and #SilentQueenEnergy. It was no longer about sides, it was about survival. Viewers began realizing they weren't just watching another celebrity fight. They were witnessing a woman reclaim her voice after years of being talked over, betrayed, and expected to keep forgiving. As the story continued spiraling, producers from LHHATL reportedly reached out to both parties, trying to get them to sit down for a reunion special, not in a studio, but in a neutral location. With no cameras at first, just a conversation. Whether they agreed was still unknown, but one thing was certain: Kirk and Rashida had just crossed a line in their relationship that couldn't be uncrossed. Whether they would rebuild or burn it all down was now the question on everyone's lips. And with emotions, raw and secrets, still bubbling beneath the surface, Part 4 of this unfolding storm was poised to be the most explosive chapter yet. The next 48 hours felt like watching a real-life season finale unfold in slow motion. Paparazzi were now camping near Frost Bistro, hoping to catch either Kirk or Rashida stepping out. Fans speculated wildly online, while Rashida's silence was deafening. Her stories were blank. No cryptic quotes. No selfies. Not even a repost of the endless support pouring in. But then came the turning point, and it hit harder than anyone expected. Late at night, a trusted LHHATL blogger released footage, allegedly from security cams inside Frost Bistro, showing Kirk having what appeared to be a tense private conversation with Rashida's cousin, the same one he'd been emotionally confiding in. In the clip, his body language was defensive, while hers was visibly anxious. At one point, she even pulled away from him when he reached toward her arm. The footage had no audio, but it didn't matter. It said enough. The internet exploded once more. Fans started accusing Kirk not just of emotional betrayal but of manipulating someone close to Rashida to maintain his image and control. Some even speculated that he had tried to gaslight the cousin, just as many believed he had done to Rashida for years. By the next morning, Rashida finally broke her silence, not through a live, not in an explosive post, but with a simple photo of her journal, opened to a page that read, in her unmistakable handwriting, "Sometimes peace comes after the storm walks out the door." No caption, no hashtags, just those 11 words, and they carried the weight of everything she hadn't said directly. The fanbase went into emotional overdrive. Everyone from fellow castmates to longtime supporters began resharing the image, calling it her soft exit and a power move. Rumors swirled that Rashida had started meeting with a divorce attorney. One blog claimed she was already in discussions about legally separating assets tied to their business ventures. Another posted documents showing her signing on to a new LLC, without Kirk's name anywhere on it. As for Kirk, he did what Kirk always does: he doubled down. He posted a carousel of pictures, him and Rashida through the years. From their early days of love to the chaotic, red carpet paparazzi moments. The caption read, "Say what y'all want. I never stopped loving her. Never stopped trying. But maybe love ain't enough when pain got the loudest voice in the room." And then he added a final photo, a screenshot of his most recent text to Rashida that said, "I miss you, I'm sorry, but I won't chase you if you've already decided to leave." That line divided the internet all over again. Some fans accused Kirk of emotional blackmail, calling his post performative and timed too perfectly for public sympathy. Others believed it was the first authentic thing he'd said in months. But while the fans argued, Rashida kept quiet. Until the podcast drop, out of nowhere, Rashida appeared as a surprise guest on a women-led podcast called Truth Table, hosted by her longtime friend from outside the industry. The episode was titled "When Loyalty Breaks You," and within moments, it went viral. "I loved him deeply," she said in the first few minutes. "Still do. But I also forgot how to love myself. That's what people don't understand. Being the strong wife became my full-time job. I was so busy protecting his image, our brand, our businesses, that I stopped asking what I needed." She went on to reveal that this wasn't the first time she'd considered leaving Kirk. "There were quiet moments over the years, moments when I'd stare at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering if I'd mistaken survival for commitment. If I stayed, because I was strong, or because I was scared." The hosts, stunned into silence at times, let her talk. And Rashida spoke with the rawness of a woman who had nothing left to hide. She didn't bash Kirk outright, but she didn't protect him either. "He's not a bad man," she said. "He's a hurt man. But sometimes, hurt men hurt you over and over because they're too busy healing themselves to notice the bruises they're giving you." One of the podcast's most viral moments came when Rashida admitted, "I realized I've been loyal to a version of him that hasn't existed in years. I've been trying to resuscitate something that was already gone." The response was overwhelming. Celebrities posted the clip. Therapy pages on Instagram quoted her words. Even LHHATL fans who had once criticized her for staying were now offering nothing but support. Kirk, by contrast, began retreating from the spotlight. His comments went off. He stopped posting. And sources close to him revealed 2 blogs that he was devastated by the podcast and didn't expect her to speak out like that. But Rashida wasn't done. She announced a new panel event, Healing After Betrayal, reclaiming your voice, with her as the keynote speaker, along with other well-known women in the entertainment industry who had faced public relationship breakdowns. The timing was no accident. This wasn't just about healing, it was about ownership, about stepping into her power after years of compromise. And yet, the story still had one more twist to give. 1 week later, Kirk was spotted at Rashida's new business location, the same one registered without his name. TMZ cameras caught him entering with flowers and a folder. Inside sources claimed he had shown up to present a letter, not a legal one, but a handwritten one, allegedly a last-ditch effort to explain everything, to make one final plea, not as a husband, but as the man who once made her fall in love. Whether she accepted it or not, no one knows, but that night, Rashida posted one final story, a photo of her reflection in a store window. She stood alone, head high, wearing a t-shirt that read, "Built from ashes," unapologetically. And that, fans believed, was her answer. Still, no official announcement about divorce had been made. No press release. No joint statement. And maybe there wouldn't be. Because some breakups don't end in words. They end in silences so loud, the whole world can hear. And in the case of Kirk and Rashida, the silence said more than any fight, any live, or any post ever could. But even as one chapter closes, the world waits, because, in the messy, painful, beautiful chaos of real love, the final page is never really final. Until someone walks away for good. But walking away, especially from a relationship built on more than 2 decades of shared business, family, betrayal, healing, and reinvention, isn't as clean as it sounds, and that's where part 4 of the saga begins. While the dust had seemingly settled after the viral podcast, Kirk Frost wasn't ready to let go of Rashida without exhausting every final option. The man who once stormed off stages and ignored red flags was suddenly the one showing up, unguarded and undeniably desperate. Multiple fans spotted him outside Rashida's boutique 2 days in a row. He didn't go in, they said. He just stood there for hours, one day holding flowers. Another day sitting in his car, staring down at his phone, pacing like a man waiting on fate to call him back. Rashida, for her part, remained composed, at least in public. Inside sources claimed she was torn. That despite all the hurt, despite the the betrayal, and the mounting emotional exhaustion, there was still a sliver of her that loved the man Kirk used to be. But she wasn't a fool. Not anymore. She wasn't the woman from season 5 who cried in silence while the world judged her decision to stay. She was someone who had grown through the fire, and her silence now wasn't weakness, it was power. Still, power doesn't erase pain. And the truth was, Rashida had begun considering counseling again, not for the marriage, but for herself. She's trying to unlearn what love has meant to her all these years, a close friend told one blog. Because when survival and love get tangled together, you start thinking suffering is part of the package. She's finally realizing it's not. Then came the most surprising moment of all. Rashida and Kirk were seen together. Not on Instagram, not on TV, but in real life, walking quietly into a private therapist's office in Atlanta. A fan snapped a blurry photo and sold it to the blogs. The internet went into a frenzy. Is she giving him another chance? Couples therapy. Not the plot twist I expected. But insiders quickly clarified this was not about reconciliation. Not yet. It was an attempt at closure. A final attempt to speak without an audience, to listen without yelling, and to see if what was left between them was salvageable or simply residue from years of unspoken grief. The very next day, Rashida posted a new journal photo, this time with a softer tone. You can't love someone out of their wounds, but you can choose to stop bleeding for them. Again, fans dissected every word. Was she letting go? Was she choosing herself? Was this the final goodbye? And while speculations flooded timelines, the story took another turn. Rashida's cousin, the one at the center of the emotional betrayal, finally spoke out. In a quiet Instagram live that only lasted 15 minutes, she fought back tears as she addressed the rumors. I never tried to come between them. I never wanted to be part of any mess. I was just trying to be a bridge. But I became part of the damage. And for that, I'm sorry. Her voice broke. Kirk came to me. Yeah. But I didn't know how to say no. He was hurting, and I thought if I listened, maybe I could help them. I didn't tell Rashida because I didn't want to add to her stress, but I see now that silence was betrayal too. The comments were filled with mixed reactions, some calling her brave for apologizing, others saying she had no right. But the most surprising comment came from Rashida herself. A single heart emoji. No words. Just acknowledgement. That moment, silent and small, said everything. And just when fans assumed the drama had finally reached its end, LHHATL producers dropped the bombshell announcement. A two-part special titled Rashida and Kirk, Unfiltered, would air the following month. Billed as a sit-down with no script, no edits, and no glam, it promised to be the most raw, unfiltered conversation ever shown on the network. The trailer alone sent chills. Clips of Rashida looking away in tears, Kirk with his head in his hands, old footage flashing across the screen, and a voiceover saying, "After the betrayal, after the silence, what's left?" The special hadn't even aired, and already fans were divided. Some accused them of monetizing their pain, again, while others applauded the vulnerability and hoped it might provide real healing or closure. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Rashida was quietly working on a new fashion line, one inspired by her recent emotional journey. Insiders revealed she was naming the collection Resilient, and that each piece would include hidden affirmations stitched into the fabric. It's her way of reclaiming her story, a source said, turning pain into purpose. Kirk, meanwhile, had begun pulling back from the spotlight. No more posts, no interviews, just silence. For once, the man who always had something to say was saying nothing, and maybe that, in itself, was the loudest thing of all. Because when the attention fades, when the likes slow down, when the audience disappears, what's left behind is the truth, the kind that doesn't care about edits, headlines, or retweets. The kind that lives in the quiet, in the aching space between what was and what might never be again. And so, where does that leave them? As the episode approaches, as the cameras prepare to roll one final time, the world watches with bated breath. Will Rashida choose to rebuild the bridge stone by painful stone? Or will she finally walk away from the ruins and build something entirely new? Is Kirk Frost ready to truly change, or just afraid of being alone? Are they partners? Or just two people who once survived a storm together? One thing is clear: what started as a viral live has turned into a reckoning, not just for Kirk and Rashida, but for every fan who's ever believed in second chances. And for every woman who's had to choose between her heart and her healing. And as the cameras begin to fade to black, the final question remains. When the truth is finally unfiltered, will love still be standing, or will the silence say it all? And there you have it, the raw, emotional, and utterly explosive unraveling of one of love and hip-hop Atlanta's most iconic couples. From the moment Kirk Frost confronted Rashida live in front of thousands, to Rashida's heartbreaking revelations about emotional manipulation, to the quiet reflection, therapy sessions, and cryptic journal posts, it's been a journey that felt less like reality TV and more like real life bleeding onto our screens. Fans have been left divided, stunned, and in many ways, deeply moved. Because this wasn't just about drama, it was about decades of love, wounds, loyalty, betrayal, and the impossible decisions that come when you've built an empire on shaky ground. As Rashida steps into her healing era, and Kirk faces the silence he created, the question now hangs in the air. Can love survive exposure, or does the truth, once set free, burn down everything it touches? Is this truly the end for Kirk and Rashida, or will their upcoming two-part special reveal a twist no one saw coming? Will forgiveness have the final word, or will healing walk away alone? But now, we want to hear from you. Were you shocked by Kirk's public outburst? Do you think Rashida has finally outgrown the relationship? Can a couple come back from this level of hurt? Is it time for both of them to start new chapters, separately? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's talk. And if you've ever found yourself torn between love and self-worth, let this story remind you, you are not alone. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single update on this ongoing saga. Because trust us, this story is far from over. Stay tuned. The real tea is just beginning.